Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. In today's webinar, I'm going to show you a 4-step system to living your dream retirement without having to compromise on your ideal retirement lifestyle. So I'm Eric Amzalag. I'm a certified financial planner, a retirement income certified professional, and the founder of Peak Financial Planning, where every week and every day and every hour, we help people just like you live the retirement of your dreams. Now, at Peak Financial Planning, we manage over $35 million in assets for 55 households. And during my time building the company, I have learned that there are a few crucial steps to truly building your dream retirement. One person who was able to implement this system was Valerie, a federal employee. She said it gave her a clearer understanding of the best time to retire and detailed steps to avoid things that would have a significant long-term negative financial impact. And then there's Paula. She initially just wanted to understand if she had enough to retire, but she ended up using the system I'm about to show you to give herself the gift of peace of mind and a better understanding of how to enjoy her wealth. Our retirement advice and strategies have also been able to impact hundreds of thousands of people across the internet through our YouTube channel, which is one of the fastest growing channels in the space, where our videos have been viewed over 1 million times in just the last 5 months, where people just like you have been able to use our content to help them build their dream retirement. Now, during my time on YouTube, I have developed a reputation for in-depth and very valuable specific content. But what I'm about to share with you today is far more valuable and detailed and in-depth than anything I have ever put up on my YouTube channel. My agenda today is, in the small amount of time that we have together, to give you a system that is going to be able to provide a big impact on your retirement. One that is going to let you truly live the retirement of your dreams. My aim is to create confidence where there is currently uncertainty, to shatter confusion and replace it with clarity, to give, share, and show exactly what you need in place in order to live your dream retirement. My goal is to unlock for you the retirement you want and you deserve, but I want to be clear that this is a two-way street. I'm going to give you my best for our brief time that we are together today, because I have faith that you will actually use the material I'm going to share to make more informed decisions about your retirement. But nothing pains me more and nothing hurts me deeper than when someone gets information that could literally change the future of their retirement and then just lets that go to waste by not ensuring that they are first implementing it, but more importantly, implementing it properly. So I can promise you I'm going to give you my best, but in return, I want to ask for your best. I ask you right now that as we go through this, to see yourself implementing everything I'm going to show today correctly, with certainty and accuracy along with it. I don't want you to half implement this without doing it properly. You need to make sure that you do every detail I cover today accurately. So I want total commitment. And if you do that, you're going to live the dream retirement. Now, is it okay for us to move forward with that agreement in place? Don't just nod your head, physically say yes out loud to yourself. This stuff is seriously going to improve your retirement. Now, there is no doubt that living the dream retirement is hard. So here are the obstacles that cause people to stumble on the path towards that. Firstly, they try to do it all themselves. Many people think that this is possible to do themselves without any expert guiding their decision-making process. And if that were true, there wouldn't be an $85 billion financial advisory market, specifically designed to help people with their retirements. Now, educating yourself can help serve you, but the beauty of getting a second pair of expert eyes on your plan is that it is the second pair of eyes that gives you true peace of mind, confirms what you're thinking, and lets you relax, knowing that you are on course for an amazing retirement. Without that second pair of expert eyes helping and guiding you, you will inevitably make mistakes that lead to a retirement lifestyle that is worse than what you deserve. Now, later on, I'm actually going to walk you through a study that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt the need for that second pair of eyes on your retirement plan. But for now, if you currently think that you can carry your own retirement on your own, I would urge you to think again. Now, the second obstacle people face is accountability. Accountability is one of life's greatest challenges, not just in retirement, but in any area where you want to be a high achiever. However, what I'm going to go through with you today is going to show you how you can build an automated system that will support you in remaining accountable and staying on track with your retirement plan. So does it make sense at this point how important remaining accountable to your retirement plan is? It's actually the key missing step I see day in, day out from people who come to us after working with another advisor beforehand. The third obstacle is following generalized advice that you hear online over and over. And this could be things like the 4% rule, or the use of target date funds, or the fact that Roth conversions are always universally good, or maybe even just bad retirement math that says that you need to have at least 25 times your annual spending in savings before retiring. Now, I'm not going to downplay the usefulness of some of these bits of advice as starting points, but if you follow advice that is meant for everybody, then how can you possibly expect to get the best result for your unique and individual situation? So as we go through today's material, I want you to make note when I show you how something can be tailored to your specific situation and how detrimental it can be to use some cookie cutter, one size fits all advice. Because everything I'm going to go through today is going to be able to be adapted to whatever your situation is. Now, right before I get into the how, I want to start with the why. Why should you follow a system like the one I'm going to lay out for you today? Well, once you have a system implemented, you will know the exact amount of assets you need to live your dream retirement, have a step-by-step prioritized list of things to accomplish so that you understand exactly what you need to do and in what order so you can live your dream retirement. You'll also have a system that is going to help you track your progress towards your dream retirement so you finally know you will actually be able to hit those retirement goals. And then finally, you're going to have a system that is going to hold you accountable to following through with the actions that are required in order to get to that dream retirement. So you can see that the secret to the retirement of your dreams is simply having a system that takes you from where you are now to where you want to go. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you today. So let's get straight into it. I'm going to pull certain things up on the screen here and you can begin to see things take shape. The first step of the system is what we call the retirement assessment. From the outset, people who try to DIY or do the retirement planning themselves already make mistakes here at the beginning. And it's absolutely crucial that this initial step be performed as accurately as possible. Because without the assessment, you will not know how much money you actually need for retirement. You won't know how or whether to adjust your saving or investing behaviors in order to prepare for your dream retirement. And ultimately, the real problem with doing this wrong is that you run the risk of running out of money in retirement. And I simply don't want that to happen to you. So there are two types of retirement assessments you're going to need to perform. One is a financial assessment, and the second is a non-financial assessment. The financial assessment tells us what you want or need to spend in retirement and whether you will be able to meet those goals. That's the math part of the experience. The non-financial assessment tells us how far our expectations are from our reality and gives us a roadmap to address the psychological part of the retirement plan. See, a plan is only good if it can be stuck to. The best plan by the numbers is actually no good if it cannot be executed because it requires so many trade-offs or too much discipline to execute. In that case, a moderate plan that you can stick to for the rest of your life is actually the far better plan. So to complete the non-financial part of the retirement assessment, you're going to need to answer 3 questions. Do you believe you have been a good or bad saver up to this point? That will help share some information about your experiences with money. The second question is, do you think you are more likely to run out of money while alive or to die with a huge pool of unspent assets? And that's going to tell us about your expectations in retirement. And then finally, how frequently do you check your portfolio balance and why do you check it with that frequency? And that will help give you some information about your experience level with investing. To complete the financial part of the retirement assessment, you're going to need to do 3 things. The first thing you're going to need to do is establish your baseline. And this just means understanding exactly where you are currently with your financial behaviors on your journey towards retirement. The second step is going to be to find out how much you then need your portfolio to produce each month in income to live your dream retirement. And we call this number required portfolio income. And then the third step is to use your required portfolio income number to find out the size of the pool of assets you will need in order to live the retirement of your dreams. Imagine being able to relax at night, knowing that you finally understand how much money you'll need to live your dream retirement. No longer will you have to stay up at night thinking about whether you're going to run out of money once you do retire. Now, there's still work to be done to secure that money, and we're going to get into that in a little bit, but you finally are able to remove all the confusion, all the brain fog, and understand how much money you're going to need from your portfolio. Be honest with yourself and think about how many times this month, maybe even this week, you've thought about whether you're going to have enough money to retire. Well, this is the first step to gain clarity on that. Now, once you know the size your portfolio needs to be, the next steps for a dream retirement become a lot clearer. It's starting to make sense to you, isn't it? Just how important a correct required portfolio income number is to you achieving that dream. Just how much clarity and peace of mind knowing that number will bring you. Of course you are. And the great thing is, I'm about to show you how to calculate it. But before I show it on the screen here, I just want to share how important it is to get a second pair of eyes on your required portfolio income number once you do calculate it. I cannot tell you how often I meet people who run through this exercise only to find out later that they might be off by literally thousands of dollars per year. So how do we calculate required portfolio income? Well, as I said, part one is establishing your financial baseline. There are 5 key questions that you need to answer. I will point out the 2 most important, but also most common steps where people make mistakes. Now, question number 1 is, how much do you spend each month? Sadly, most people don't actually know this, nor do they calculate it accurately once they are tasked with answering this question. And I often meet people who look me in the eyes and say, well, I use the budgeting tool, so it must be accurate. Only to find out once we did a more thorough audit that they did in fact miss annual expenses or things like insurance premiums, property taxes, or auto registration. They even miss things like gifts, Christmas or anniversary or birthday gifts. And sometimes they just miss having a miscellaneous category for surprises that come up, such as home maintenance or out-of-pocket medical costs. The next question is, how much do you save each month? Do you have a plan that you follow, or do you just spend and then save whatever's left over? The third question here is, how much do you have saved up for retirement as of this moment? And that's an easy one to answer, which leads us to the fourth question. What will your guaranteed sources of income be in retirement? And what will those amounts be? And this can be variable, so this one often trips people up and they get this wrong over and over again. So you need to make sure you're properly planning for claiming Social Security at the optimal age for your unique situation, and understanding what income amount that will be as a result. You may also have to consider how to properly claim a pension if you have one, making sure to take account of your marital status and what type of payout is optimal for your specific situation. And then you may also have an annuity, so you'd have to think about how to handle those annuities or the investment life insurance products that you may own in your retirement portfolio. And this leads us to the final question, probably the most important, which is, when would you like to retire? Now, using all that information, you're going to calculate required portfolio income. I'm going to pull that up on the screen here in a spreadsheet. RPI, required portfolio income, is simply your annual spending, which say you accurately tracked in part 1. So let's say it's $75,000 minus your after-tax income. And let's say that you have Social Security here, and that amount of after-tax income is $51,000. And that equals your required portfolio income, which is in the green box here, which is $24,000 in this scenario. We can now use your required portfolio income to back out an estimate of your starting retirement portfolio amount. And you can use a spreadsheet calculator like this one I'm showing here on the screen. In fact, at the end of this video, I'm going to be giving away a couple freebie tools as a thank you for watching the webinar. And this calculator is going to be one of those freebies. We'll move over to the second sheet here, and you would be able to find your starting portfolio value by filling in any of the yellow cells in this calculator. And this calculator takes your required portfolio income from the first page that we just looked at, and then based on the inputs for length of retirement in years, your estimated rate of return, and a legacy goal, it's going to spit out the size portfolio you will need on day 1 of retirement. So you're probably starting to see how understanding this in a crystal clear fashion will provide you peace of mind and will allow you to relax and plan for your dream retirement better, right? Now, it's crucial to understand here that you need to get these numbers right. An accurate estimate of required portfolio income is the linchpin of this calculator, which means you must have an accurate estimate of what you want to spend in year 1 of retirement. I can reassure you that that amount is unlikely to be drastically different from your pre-retirement spending if you're within 3 to 5 years of retirement. And then you have to use that information to fill in the yellow cells in this calculator with accurate and reliable information. So don't estimate too short of a retirement, right? Don't put in 20 years or 15, and don't put in too aggressive a rate of return. Don't put in an 8 or 10% rate of return. Those can really damage your chances here. We have to put stuff in that can actually be manifested. So now we both agree that this information is extremely valuable in terms of peace of mind. in living your dream retirement. So please commit to me at this point, and more importantly to yourself, that you're going to do everything you can to make sure you know this number, inside and out, upside and down, and that it is as accurate as you can get it. No more thinking you're doing it correctly. You need to make sure you're actually doing it perfectly. The next step now is the prescription. So now you know exactly how much you currently have saved and how much you need saved. To bridge the gap between the two, we're going to conduct what we call a retirement prescription. Getting this step right is crucial because it's going to illustrate the right first steps to take so you can begin to build your dream retirement today. And it is simply building the roadmap by prioritizing action items you need to implement in order to live your dream retirement. Now imagine if retirement planning were Google Maps. Step 1, which we just reviewed, the assessment, is where you plug in your point of origin and your desired destination. And step 2 here would be building out the turn-by-turn directions that tell you how to get from that point of origin to the destination. So picture this. In a flash, you're stress-free about your retirement. Why? Because the stress is coming from having a nearly endless amount of adjustments to consider, leaving you paralyzed. It's like looking at the Cheesecake Factory menu for the first time and trying to choose what to eat. Just options overload. But once you have a prioritized list of step-by-step action items, you'll know what to do, when to do it, and how much effort these things will take. You will no longer have to worry about whether you need to work longer, save more, spend less, etc. You'll know it like it's your ABCs. So that makes sense, doesn't it? In anything, whether it is getting healthy, building a business, or yes, even in your retirement planning, having an accurate prioritized list of action items specifically tailored to your personal situation is going to be super important to actually succeeding. So you see how important this is, right? And okay, Eric, yes, this is clearly important, so how do I do it? Well, that's what we're going to cover right now. So part 1 is understanding what phase of retirement planning you are in, and there are 3 phases. The first phase is called triage, and this is where, based on your current savings and current savings habits, you are not going to meet your desired required portfolio income needs. To put it simply, you're not going to have enough money to spend what you want in retirement. Next is the stabilize phase. And this is where we are going to have enough money to spend what you want in retirement, but it's just on the line and you don't really have significant spending flexibility. And then there's the third phase, we call this optimize. And this is where you have more than enough money to spend what you desire. And that means you're going to have and be able to implement a few luxury items into your plan. Does that make sense? Perfect. So once we have accurately diagnosed where you are, we now need to set the laundry list of action items to get you to your goal portfolio amount that you calculated in step 1. Hopefully you should be seeing how all of these steps are building off of each other, right? And how they're going to come together to build you your dream retirement. Now, if you're in the triage phase, this is the set of action items you may need to undertake. Work longer, save more, or spend less in retirement. And these items are needed because you actually need to shift the trajectory of your savings going into retirement. Otherwise, you're not going to arrive with enough money and you're going to run out of money in retirement. Does that make sense? Now, if you're in the stabilize phase, you can begin to think through things like Social Security claiming, pension claiming, pre-retirement investment allocations, post-retirement investment allocations, and even dynamic distribution strategies, things like guardrails or inflation-adjusted strategies. These items are going to allow you to have a little bit more spending flexibility than you otherwise would have based on your retirement assessment in step 1. And then if you have the luxury of being in the optimize phase, then you can consider things like Roth conversions, charitable giving, family gifting. These are all action items that have great benefits, but you should only be considering those optimization action items if you have the luxury of never having to worry about running out of money in retirement. Now, the absolute key to this is that you need to make sure you are accurately diagnosing what phase you're in, whether that's triage, stabilize, or optimize. You have to do this using a proper financial planning tool. Otherwise, everything else is kind of irrelevant to your retirement. So the triage phase is when you have a probability of success score in a financial planning tool that is below 59%. You enter the stabilization phase when you are above 60% and below 79%. According to the probability of success score. And then you move to the optimize phase when you are between 80 and 100%. Now, the next thing you need to know is you need to make sure that you're testing each of the action items listed above individually, one at a time in that same financial planning tool, so that you can see how much of an impact each of the potential items I laid out above may have. And getting this right is what is going to actually allow you to prioritize what action items you need to be doing and when and in what order. Does that make sense? So hopefully that's clear to you now how important it is to make sure that this is accurate, right? Now, on to the next step. So now you know exactly where you are and what you need to do to reach your goals. And that's great. But here's a question for you. How do you even know if what you're doing is working? Everything you're trying to do to achieve your dream retirement could be for nothing. So how do you truly know if it's having an impact, and then by how much? So the title of this step here on the screen may make it obvious, but if not, you solve that problem by establishing a retirement monitoring system. And it is extremely important that you make sure you are consistently tracking certain key metrics in the build-up to retirement and even in retirement if you are already retired, as this ensures that the actions you are taking today will actually have an impact on your ability to live the retirement of your dreams. And you do this by having a spreadsheet that lets you track certain key metrics over very specific timeframes. Now, if only you knew how relaxing it truly could be, how much stress it truly could remove to know for certain that the actions you're taking are not being wasted. Imagine having conversations with friends or family around retirement and having absolute certainty and clarity that you're on the right path. You no longer have to worry and look back in hindsight wishing that you'd done things differently. And that peace of mind is what tracking the right metrics will provide you. And I want you to have that. So how do you actually do that? Well, you use a grid that looks something like this. The first is for you if you have not yet retired, and I have a second one I'm going to show in a second if you have or are in retirement. And they track nearly the same things with one small exception. So here we have 6 core metrics and the frequency of when you should be tracking them. There are other metrics that you will want to track based on your specific situation, and this will be influenced by your unique portfolio construction, and whether you have pensions or annuities or other things. But the ones I have here on the screen are universally applicable and should be used by everyone regardless of their circumstance. And those items are, if you're in pre-retirement, they're your expenses, your actual savings rate, your required savings rate, your actual rate of return, your required rate of return, and then your portfolio value. And if you are retired, you'll see this on the screen now, you would use this set here, expenses, which are the same, the actual distribution rate, which is just the inverse of your savings rate, your required distribution rate, which is again the inverse of your required savings rate, and then your actual rate of return, your required rate of return, and again, your end of year portfolio value. Let's go through a full example spreadsheet here for both scenarios with everything filled in. So let's say in pre-retirement, this person wants to target spending $9,000 a month. They're actually spending $10,000 a month. Well, we have a column here titled gap, and that tells us the difference or the delta. And then we assign a time frame within which to correct the behavior. So now this person would know if my target is $9,000 and I'm spending $10,000, I need to course correct here because you'll see that this has a waterfall or trickle down effect down the grid. Now let's say the reason for that $9,000 spending target is because we set this person wants an actual savings rate target of 15%. But in actuality, they track this quarterly and they find out that they're only saving 11.1% of their income, which results in a roughly 4% savings gap. Now, because expenses and savings rate are inextricably tied together, they'd have a 6-month time frame to fix this issue. And the required savings rate is just a way to document because that required savings rate will change each year. So you want a way to document your adjustment to that feature. Next, we have an actual rate of return target. We want this in this hypothetical scenario, a rate of return of 6.6%. It gets tracked quarterly. And let's say they have an outperformance by the market and there's a 9.1% actual rate of return. Great. There's no gap. There's no time frame to adjust the behavior. Things are looking good. And we can see that reflected in this kind of not applicable column below it. And then finally, tracking portfolio value. Let's say there's a target portfolio value for the end of that year, $650,000. But because of the market's outperformance, we now have a portfolio value of $670,000 roughly. And again, in this hypothetical scenario, no issues, nothing needs to be adjusted. Let's do the same thing here on the screen for someone in retirement. Things are going to look mostly the same. We start with expenses. This hypothetical scenario, we want to target $6,000 per month of spending. We check this frequency monthly. And then we find out that through that tracking that this hypothetical couple is spending $7,200 a month, resulting in a $1,200 per month gap, an overage, an overspending of $1,200 per month. And we want to make a target to course correct this over 3 months because 1 month of spending isn't enough to really know. We need a couple months to actually get that handled. Now, spending will eventually trickle into this hypothetical couple's distribution rate. So let's say they target a 5.25% distribution rate, but they end up actually on pace for a 6.1% distribution rate or a 0.85% gap. Now we know that this person is going to end up kind of overspending over the course of the year because they have 1 quarter of data, and if they allow this to continue for 4 quarters, they're likely to end up overspending by that amount. So we want to set a time frame to course correct that behavior over the next 3 months. We have the same information here for distribution rate, for required rate of return. Let's say they have a target of 6.3%. We track that quarterly. They're actually on pace for a 4.8% investment rate of return, resulting in a gap of 1.5%. But in this case, we're going to set a much longer time frame, 9 months, because investment markets are actually quite volatile. You could be on pace for a 4.8% year, 6 months into the year, and 3 months later have several months where that totally props up your rate of return. And so we don't want to overreact to undershooting or overshooting our investment rate of return target by having too short of a frequency of monitoring and adjusting. And then finally, we track portfolio value here, just like in pre-retirement, so that we can make adjustments or understand, where is our actual portfolio value headed. This is going to allow you to not have to sit there and second guess your decisions. Because you have a grid like this, you're going to be able to see in a crystal clear fashion that you're on track to meet your goals. And you can't even imagine how many people come to me after completing a laundry list of financial planning action items, thinking that they had their retirement figured out. They say things like, Eric, I know exactly what I'm doing, but when we go retrospectively through and see if anything has truly moved the needle in their retirement, we see that nothing has changed. And maybe even worse, that they're now closer to retirement by 1, 2, or even 3 years, and really haven't made any real progress apart from checking a bunch of meaningless boxes. So I don't want that to be you, right? So make sure you're accurately tracking the right metrics. And you can use this exact grid that we had on the screen here. You're starting to see how important this all is, right? I want you right now to commit to making sure that you know exactly how much your actions are impacting your ability to live your dream retirement by tracking the right metrics. Can you do that for me? Fantastic. Now we're going to move on to the next step here, the 4th step, which is the retirement system. And this is the key step that almost all retirement plans are missing. Now, the easiest way for me to explain why this is so important is from a quote from the book Atomic Habits, written by the author James Clear. And in it, he says, "People do not rise to the level of their goals, they fall to the level of their systems." And this quote really encapsulates why it is so important that you have a system in place to manage your behaviors. See, you may be 3, 4, or 5 years out from retirement, and that is a long time to try and consistently manage a set of behaviors. So if you don't have a system in place to ensure that you stay aligned to those behaviors, you may fall short and not end up being able to live the retirement you desire. So what does a system look like? It looks something like this on the screen here. And the goal here is to make sure you are revisiting and refreshing your plan with regular, set, predetermined frequencies. Now, I'm going to break down exactly how to use this sort of a grid here to build a system in your life for retirement planning. But before that, I just want to say one important thing. Consistently revisiting and refreshing your plan at regular intervals through a system is going to lead to you having much lower anxiety levels and making much better decisions. By using a system, you're going to be able to truly know that you will achieve your dream retirement, that there is no guesswork involved, that you're not going to be caught out by random events that you never saw coming. You're finally taking a proactive approach to your retirement when you use a system. And as I just mentioned, this is going to be the key final step in ensuring you get the retirement you want. So jumping back to the grid, how does this actually work in practice? Well, you see, you have these key metrics: expenses, actual savings or withdrawal rate, right, depending on if you're pre-retirement or in retirement. Then we have the actual rate of return. And then we have your upper and lower portfolio guardrails. And by the way, we're going to go through each of these individually in just a moment. And then we have your portfolio value. And then we have an assessment of financial satisfaction and life satisfaction. And then similar to the previous steps, we have what we call an adjustment frequency. Now, adjustment frequency just lets you know how often you're going to revisit this element in the plan and how often you will make adjustments. Because the real key here is that you are now being proactive in your retirement planning. And really important to note here is that having the right adjustment frequency and tracking frequency is really important in making this work. If you track something too frequently, let's say you track your expenses daily, it's like getting on the scale 5 times a day. It can make you neurotic and it's not actually all that useful. Tracking with the right frequency allows you to then create a system to adjust with the right frequency. We want to have data that can help us make informed adjustments And then adjusting with the right frequency will lead to fewer impulsive or emotion-based adjustments. And you'll see this come into play when I show you how exactly we use this system. Now, the real key here is that by understanding that, you're being proactive in your retirement planning. And I think you can see how important that is. You're no longer going to wait around and just let things go wrong. You're going to be proactively making changes as needed. Now, what do you do once you actually need to adjust your plan? Well, that's where the contingency plans come in, and that's this column all the way on the right here that says adjustment type. And you can see here in that far right row or column, a set of contingency plans based on the metrics that you're looking to adjust. And each adjustment type should have a documented contingency plan. Now, you're not seeing the documented plan here on the screen, but each of these should be previously documented in advance. It should be detailed, thought out in advance, and written with very much clarity so that if or when it comes time to implement these adjustment types or contingency plans, you have enough detail to go off of without going into shock. So let's run through a few examples together. Say, for instance, that you are retired and are tracking your withdrawal rate each month. So you have a goal withdrawal rate of 5.6%. By the end of the first quarter, you have withdrawn 1.8% of your portfolio. Well, 5.6% divided into 4, which gives you what your quarterly required withdrawal rate would be, is 1.4%. Now, in this scenario, you've actually withdrawn 1.8%, which is 0.4% more than anticipated. If that were going to continue to play out over the full year, you would end up withdrawing 1.6% more than your target withdrawal rate and end the year with a 7.2% withdrawal rate. Now, knowing this, in the first quarter exactly, you would be able to make the appropriate adjustment here in the adjustment type column. You would be able to reduce spending, and because you are tracking your expenses monthly, again, because of the system, you would have documentation of where that extra spending is coming from and be able to adjust accordingly. So let's look at a second scenario, probably one that is more commonly a retirement fear. Let's say your desired rate of return is 6.6% per year. Now, let's say there's a terrible year for the markets and the return on your portfolio is a negative 22%. You would be able to follow your previously determined system about how and whether to adjust your investments because you had documented it and thought about it before. The key here is that you have all of this documented well in advance before this type of negative market event takes place. And modern guardrails, which is a type of distribution strategy, can make the spending adjustment portion of this decision really easy. They tell you exactly at what portfolio value you should increase or decrease your spending, which is why we have a metric here titled upper and lower portfolio guardrails. But whether and what type of investment changes you should make is a much more nuanced question. Now, suffice it to say, you should be thinking about yourself. How will you feel if your portfolio goes down 20%? Will you want to hit the panic button? Would you want to reduce risk in your portfolio? And if you did, how would you do it and by how much? And then what you would do is write all of that down. You'd sleep on it. Maybe you'd get a second pair of eyes on it. And then you'd confirm that plan and make sure that when the event comes, you use that previously written plan. Do not let your emotions swing you around like a whip. Then, when it comes time to actually implementing your contingency system, in this specific scenario where the market has a negative 22% return, you could do the following. Firstly, you've tracked your rate of return quarterly, so you're not completely shocked by the fact that the market had a negative return. Second, you would have adjusted your spending behaviors quarterly because as your portfolio value decreased, the result of the negative market return, your withdrawal rate, would have crept up, and you would have adjusted spending behaviors quarterly according to the grid here. Now, not only that, you would potentially have seen a lower guardrail trigger for your portfolio, which would help you determine the timing and quantity of the spending adjustment. And then finally, because you would have planned in advance whether and what type of portfolio investment adjustments to make well before the market downturn, you would know exactly what and whether to adjust. And you should be able to see just how powerful this type of system is for your retirement. I cannot stress this enough. If you do not have a system, you have no accountability. And if you have no accountability, you will be reactive instead of proactive. And if you are not proactive, well, the likelihood of success in your retirement plummets. So you can see how this chain of actions can lead you to not living the retirement of your dreams, right? And you did not work so hard for all those years earning a living to live a subpar retirement, did you? Exactly. You deserve the retirement of your dreams. So I want to make sure you are implementing a rigorous system into your retirement. Make sure that you are implementing it in a correct way that is specifically tailored to your situation. And if that means changing some of the material in this kind of grid, by all means do so. A cookie cutter system simply will not cut it for your retirement planning. You need to ensure that you are using one specifically tailored to your individual situation. So, can you commit to doing that? Now, so far in our brief time today, I've given you the exact system I have spent years perfecting in order to help anybody, anywhere, in any situation, produce their dream retirement. You now know how to calculate the exact amount of money you're going to need to live your dream retirement. You understand how to prescribe a list of prioritized action items that will best help you on your retirement journey. I've given you a process and a framework for tracking your retirement metrics so that you can ensure you are actually on track to meet your goals. And I've even shown you a system that you can use to consistently iterate and adjust your habits over the long term, which basically ensures that you successfully have the retirement of your dreams if this is implemented correctly. Now, knowing what you know now, do you feel more confident that there is a process out there that is going to let you live your dream retirement? Do you feel like implementing a plan like this in your retirement is going to give you peace of mind and remove the stress and worry? Do you realize the importance of actually having a system that is going to let you periodically correct your retirement plan? Can you actually see yourself implementing what I showed you today to help you build a more robust retirement plan? Would you like to ensure you are actually implementing this correctly, moving towards your goals and not wasting your most valuable resource, your time? And finally, does it make sense to you to prioritize a retirement plan like this in your own life so that you can remove all the stress and anxiety associated with it? Now, here's what I know. Even if I had 5 hours with you together instead of the short time we have today, it's going to be hard, almost impossible to create, implement, and stick to a retirement plan that is going to give you the full extent and benefit of all that I could give you. No matter who you watch and for how many hours, watching videos is not going to truly guarantee you the retirement that you want, but more importantly, that you deserve. You need more than that. While what I've given you today is incredibly valuable, as you've told me, frankly, it's just the tip of the iceberg. And if you've loved what I've shared with you so far, you're going to love what else I have for you next. If you said to yourself that it makes sense to prioritize a retirement plan like this one in your own life. So my team and I set a few hours aside each week to speak to you personally so that we can help you begin to move towards building a retirement system that is going to let you live your dream retirement in a predictable and stress-free way. Here's how it works. We'll get on a call for about 45 minutes. We will first take some time to have a conversation so I can understand your story and what has brought you to the point where you know you need to start taking action around your retirement. This is going to allow you to relax, knowing that the entire conversation is going to be completely tailored to your personal situation. Then we're going to have a question and answer session where you can ask me any specific questions about your situation in regards to financial and retirement planning so that you can get a second pair of eyes on exactly what you're doing, just as we both agreed was important on this webinar today. Then we're going to give you an overview of exactly how we work and what our processes are like. And then if and when we both feel like we are the perfect fit for each other, and you feel like you have finally found the advisor to make your dream retirement come true, then we can go ahead to schedule a second completely free discovery call. And this allows you to think through and come back to me with any questions you have around moving forward before we take any action. The point of separating the first and the second call is to ensure that you are 100% comfortable with moving forward before we do that. Now, following this initial call, you could be like Karina, who said straight from our first meeting that it was clear how we prioritized clear and thorough explanations that ensured that she fully understood each decision and its implications. Think about what this sort of clarity could do for your peace of mind. Imagine truly knowing you can go and do the stuff you really want to do in retirement without the negative thoughts hanging over your head as to whether you can afford that. I want that for you. And to let me give you this gift, you simply need to go and click the link below. When you click the link and go to that page, you will see a short form to fill out so that you can book a call with me. And why do we have that form? The reason for the form is because this call isn't for everyone. It's only for you if you are ready to keep all the commitments you made to yourself throughout this video and seek the professional help and the second opinion you need to live the retirement of your dreams. If you're still of the mindset of thinking you can do everything yourself, the call is not for you, and don't worry about that. It is for the proactive action takers that want to truly have peace of mind and want to know that they are on course to live the retirement of their dreams. Once you have been accepted through the form, you'll be taken to a page that looks like what's on the screen here, whereby you will be able to book a call with us at a time that works for both of us. And this call is at completely no cost to you. We're not asking you to make an investment decision today. We simply want you to make a fully informed decision about your retirement. That is all. Now, the only way you can make a fully informed decision is from meeting with us and deciding if we're the right fit for each other. And then if we are, that is when we'll decide whether or not to move forward. And if we're not a fit, no problem. You will then, after our meeting, be able to make a fully informed decision if we're the right fit for each other. But you're not currently in a position to make that decision right now for the same reason that you don't buy a house without looking at the inside of it. And that's the reason we make this meeting free of cost, because we want to make sure that you are happy with your choice. And to be able to make that choice, all you need to do is click the link below, fill in the form, and book the call. So now at this point, I know a lot of you have already gone and booked a call, and that's amazing. But some of you are still here, and I can tell you are getting ready to book a call, but you have a question that you need answered first before making that decision. So let's address that question in the few minutes we have left. That question is whether you can do it yourself. And look, I get it. You have probably already, even just in this video, learned so much about retirement planning that you feel like you can indeed do it yourself. But I'm going to be very direct with you for just a second, because a lot of people who think they can do it themselves are, kidding themselves. In fact, a study done by the American College of Financial Services showed that the value of making better financial planning decisions could lead to an increase in retirement income of as much as 38%. In another study done by Vanguard called the Vanguard Advisor Alpha Study showed that the typical value of better financial strategies could be as high as the equivalent of 3% in additional portfolio rate of return. If you end up trying to do it all yourself, you will end up like Sarah, who finally, after years had passed, realized that no matter how much she tried, she never truly had the time to do all the independent research, the due diligence that is required to have a bulletproof retirement plan, which led to her stress and fears about retirement increasing year on year. Whereas now, after having this system implemented by us, she sits with confidence in her portfolio, her benefits, her investments, and most importantly, her retirement. The problem with trying to do it yourself is that time where you finally feel confident to retire will never come. And if you never truly feel confident, every passing year, month, and day that goes by without the help of an expert leads to your future retirement lifestyle getting worse and worse. So right now, please click the link below and book a no-cost, no-commitment call with us. We want to help you. We want to be that second pair of eyes for you. But first, you have to help yourself and click that link below to get booked with us. So with that said, we're going to close out this webinar. I appreciate your time with us today, and I look forward to seeing you again in the future.